Wait, what if the reason all of these men act the same isn't coincidence at all? What if it's the system they were raised in? Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. There's something I've been seeing over and over again. When it comes to Joseph Duggar, his brothers, and even his closest friends, they all seem to follow the exact same pattern. And lately, my inbox has been flooded with messages about different people, different situations, and all the chaos connected to this world. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. And it raises one big question. Why does this keep happening inside the IBLP? Here's the reality. The IBLP is built on a structure where men are placed in a position where they essentially cannot fail. Seriously, they're given authority, control, and a built-in way to justify almost anything. And when you create a system like that, where accountability is removed, the consequences can be extremely damaging.
If you look at the men's manual from the Institute of Basic Life Principles, it teaches that failing doesn't make a man a failure unless he gives up. It also pushes the idea that God allows failure so it can later be turned into strength. So instead of failure being something you're held accountable for, it becomes something you can reframe as growth. That sounds harmless at first, but when you dig deeper, you start to see the pattern. Mistakes, no matter how serious, can be rebranded as a testimony. A struggle becomes a story of strength. And the worse the behavior, the more powerful the transformation is supposed to look in the end. That's the foundation. And it's why this cycle keeps repeating. Bill Gothard claimed his teachings were rooted in the Bible. But when you really examine them, a lot of it goes far beyond Scripture and introduces ideas that simply aren't there. To understand this better, you have to look at something called the umbrella of authority. This concept teaches that every family must stay under a strict chain of command. The father sits at the top, the mother is beneath him, and the children are under her. As long as everyone stays within that structure, they're considered protected. But the moment someone steps outside of it,
that's labeled as rebellion. And rebellion, according to this teaching, is equated with something as extreme as witchcraft. That's where things start to shift. Because now, questioning authority isn't just disagreement. It's framed as something dangerous, even evil. And here's the issue. None of this structure actually exists in the Bible the way it's being presented. The umbrella itself isn't even a biblical concept. It's something created to reinforce control, specifically male authority. So in this system, men are automatically placed above women, not because of ability, but simply because they're men. That's it. And once that authority is established, it becomes nearly impossible to challenge it, because questioning it means you're stepping outside of protection. Now, this is where it gets even more serious. When it comes to how situations like abuse are handled within this system,
The responsibility is often shifted onto the victim. In certain teachings, it's suggested that abuse happens because of things like how someone dressed, who they were around, or whether they were under authority at the time. So instead of focusing on the person who committed the act, the blame is redirected. And if the victim isn't considered at fault, then it's reframed as something that made them stronger spiritually. Think about that. They're essentially told that what happened either happened because of something they did, or it happened to make them better. And then they're encouraged to forgive, stay silent, and move on.
That's how the cycle continues, because it never actually addresses the behavior. It just explains it away. And when you combine that with teachings that discourage speaking out, reporting, or even questioning others, you end up with a system where things stay hidden. You're told not to gossip, not to judge, not to create division. So even if something is wrong, people stay quiet. And over time, that silence turns into normalization. That's why you see the same patterns repeat, the same behaviors, the same justifications, the same outcomes. Because the structure protects itself. Now, when you look at the people surrounding Joseph Duggar, his brothers, his friends, you start to see why they all seem so similar. It's not random. It's learned, it's reinforced, and it's repeated. When boys grow up in a system where they're told they hold authority, where their actions can be reframed, and where accountability is minimal, that mindset carries forward. At the same time, girls in that same system are taught the opposite. They're taught submission, silence, and responsibility, even for things that aren't their fault. And that imbalance creates exactly what we're seeing. Now, when it comes to families like the Duggars and their circle, there are also layers of history and environment that play a role.
Jim Bob Duggar grew up in a difficult environment and later became deeply involved in the IBLP. Over time, that system didn't just influence him, it shaped how he raised his family. And when that structure is passed down, it doesn't just affect one generation. It continues. The same ideas, the same control, the same patterns. And when people ask, why are so many of them like this? That's the answer. It's not just individuals. It's the system behind them. And until that system is questioned, nothing really changes. So now I want to hear from you. What do you think about all of this? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.